Hello and welcome to the Tennessee Informer. Thank you all for being with us tonight. We have a great lineup of guests and shows in store for you this evening. Joining us a little bit later will be John Emison, researcher and author of several compelling books, including The Deep State Assassination of Martin Luther King. He'll be sharing information about why some MLK evidence may still actually be hidden from the general public. Also, Justin Johnson is going to give us some important current updates on the race for governor here in Tennessee. Justin and more are all coming up in the Informer Report, which starts now. The Tennessee governor's race may not be the slam dunk for Marsha Blackburn that many establishment Republicans thought it would be. While there may have been a few polls recently showing Marsha leading by a wide margin, a Facebook poll over the weekend by a conservative Republican, Justin Johnson in West Tennessee, showed just the opposite. While maybe not a scientific poll, it did include a larger number of people and had responses from across the state, and the fact that establishment cheerleaders such as Steve Gill felt the need to denigrate the poll on the Todd Starnes show could mean that they were surprised and concerned. Joining us to discuss this poll is Justin Johnson. Well, thank you for being with us, Justin, especially on such short notice.
Hey, good afternoon, Dave. Glad to be here tonight.
So what made you decide to do this poll?
I pay attention to everything. I guess you call me an informed voter. A lot of the conversation, especially around the Beacon poll, but any of the posts I've seen on Marsha Blackburn, there's always a bunch of negative comments underneath her section, whether it be far lefties or just your base Republicans. So I decided one night I'm just going to do my own grassroots poll and just poll my own supporters. I got about 1,200 followers, and the poll just took off like wildfire. It was shared 242 times, and I have close to 3,000 people that have responded to the poll. But I think to everybody's surprise that this seems like this is a race between Marsha Blackburn and Monte Fritz. And Monte Fritz has the lead in my poll at 55% and also the Mighty 990 poll.
Wow. So we do have some screenshots, and these are from earlier today. So do you have any updates to these as far as percentages?
No, I don't. The percentages are still the same. In fact, even on my poll, I'm going to keep it pinned to my page until the primary election is over, just to compare it to see how accurate my poll was to the actual race, if anybody wants to vote on it.
Cool. That's great. Now, you can only vote once in this poll, right? I mean, at least from one device.
Yeah, so I know Steve Gill's bashed my poll pretty hard, but I think my poll is very transparent. The Beacon poll, you can't see who's voted on it. On my poll, if you want to go look at it, you can see every single person that's voted on this poll and where they're located and all the other information that's associated with them that's public view. So I think this poll is a canary in the coal mine. The legacy media, they can discount it, but this is from authentic people in Tennessee showing that Monte Fritz, besides what the establishment tell you, is a legitimate candidate in this race.
So you were not the only one surprised by this, right?
Well, actually, I'll be honest with you. I was totally surprised about how many votes that Monte Fritz got into this. I thought, with Marsha Blackburn's name, that she would still have a pretty high percentage. She would actually poll better than Monte Fritz. So this was a big surprise to me that Monte did as well as he did.
Yeah. Well, name recognition, that's kind of like tracer rounds. They work both ways.
Yeah, so I think Monte's success in this, you have to look at Trump's campaign in 2024 when they decided that they couldn't depend on the legacy media to carry their message. They went and talked to alternative podcasts, long form podcasts. They went and campaigned any place that it would allow them. And you're seeing that with Monte. He's on the ground. He's all over Tennessee, talking to anybody that will listen. in any podcast or radio show, he's going on it, and he's discussing the issues of the day.
Yeah. Well, I think he's definitely got Montmenum, which I call it Monty Menum. I'll be honest here. I support Monty, have from day one. And I'm just glad to see this because if nothing else, this poll, because I did see some responses on the, hey, well, who's Monty? Well, I think more and more people are going to find out who Monty is. So if nothing else, I think this poll does show that she's nowhere near as popular as a lot of people assume she was. Once again, it's not the slam dunk that they want. And I think, we'll see how, this is just a poll. It's early on. A lot of people don't pay any attention till about 60 to 90 days out. But I'm still glad you did it. And I think it's going to help overall, at least allow people to know, hey, yeah, you do have an option. You don't have to vote for one or two millionaires or DC politicians, however you want to look at that.
Yeah, so if anything, if the President Trump, the Kamala Harris race showed us anything, is that you can have money like Kamala, but it can't buy you a race. So for Monte, they better watch out because he's authentic and voters are gravitating to him. And the more he gets in front of people, the more they like him. So, if I was them, I would take a page out of Monte's playbook.
Absolutely. And so what about the efforts to discredit this? I'm sure Steve Gill's not the only one he's probably one of the most prominent ones we heard. I didn't really take it that Starnes was trying to discredit it, although he did do another poll, and, maybe that was to see, maybe he was just curious. Hey, is this thing real? And his poll didn't come out a lot different.
Yeah, if you look at it, his is still pinned to the top of the page of 99.90, but Monte Fritz is leading in that poll. And so, especially you look at Monte, he's a representative of East Tennessee, so you would assume that he would have a pretty good following. But West Tennessee is kind of really the no man's land for all three of these candidates. So for two polls to come out of West Tennessee and for Monte Fritz to be polling that high in an area, I don't think he's had a lot of boots on the ground. I think it shows something.
Absolutely. He is definitely resonating with constitutional conservatives in the state of Tennessee. And I think a lot of people, just like in other states, we are so sick of the establishment. We're so sick of having garbage choices. And I think that has a lot to do with it. So you're not going to do another poll. You're just going to leave this one up till Election Day, correct?
Yeah, well, as critical as people have been and to kind of bash my poll, now I was thinking about closing it off and just posting it, but I'm going to keep it all the way to the August election because if this poll is accurate, then I can look back and say, hey, look, you debunked us. You tried to say that we didn't matter. And look, this poll, what the people voted in, shows you that we were dead on with our analysis of this race.
Yeah. Last question. So you can only vote once from one device, okay, as far as identifying yourself. Can you change your vote?
Yeah, so like I had this in the beginning, especially there were a lot of elected officials throughout the state that voted in my poll, and they can take away their vote. But you can only vote for one candidate that's on the poll. You cannot vote for multiple candidates.
Okay. All right. Well, once again, we got more information from your poll than we got from the Beacon. We're supposed to take the Beacon at their word, and I don't see any reason to do that. Hey, thanks again for being with us, especially on such short notice, and thanks for doing the poll.
Hey, you're welcome.
You have a good night.
You too. Bye.
The UN is on the verge of bankruptcy. 95% of the funds due are from the U.S., totaling about $2.2 billion. Apparently, the Trump administration has been trying to leverage the UN's reliance on our tax dollars to get them to implement reforms. While many of us would like to see the UN evacuated and demolished in place, it appears that in the next few days, the Trump administration intends to make the back payments to keep the UN in operation. What a waste. Let's hope he changes his mind. The useless nations need to find another home and another sugar daddy. I hope I'm wrong, but certain things I'm hearing and seeing out of D.C. and the administration lead me to believe we will soon see the Trump administration cave on the deportation issue for those that don't have additional criminal records. I suspect they will do a big push on getting the really bad actors out, then surrender on the rest, probably while citing some bogus poll. That would be a huge betrayal to our country and would certainly demoralize the base. That would almost guarantee losing the midterms. Would gladly be wrong on this one. That wraps up this installment of the Informer Report. If you have a news story that you want to alert us to, be sure to send it to us at tninformer.tv@gmail.com. Now a word from our sponsor, LifeWave, a unique product that uses light reflection to activate the body's own natural energy, supporting healing, improving performance, and combating aging without drugs or stimulants. Check it out, and we'll be right back with our guest, John Avery Emison.
Light, the energy of life itself. Since the beginning of time, light has sustained us, fueled our growth, and shaped the world. Even Einstein recognized that everything we are is made of light. But what if we could harness the light within us, not just to live, but to renew, restore, and rejuvenate? Introducing LifeWave X39, the first product in the world that activates stem cells using our body's own light. Backed by clinical research, multiple patents, and over 10 years of stem cell research, a revolutionary wearable light technology that unlocks the power of activating our own stem cells with a single, safe, affordable, non-transdermal patch that puts you back in control of how you look, feel, and perform. Unlike drugs or chemicals, X39 works naturally, awakening your body's ability to heal and thrive. It's time to unlock your full potential, restore your vitality, and embrace a healthier, more vibrant you.
Whatever you may think of Trump, and he has done some great things, as you know, I don't cheerlead for everything that comes out of the administration. Many of us are frustrated by what we see as a lack of action, either from the administration or often the Congress, that hasn't done much to put his agenda into law. The DOJ and FBI have been disappointing, to say the least. People want to see justice. This lack of action on crimes committed is not limited to the Biden administration or the first Trump administration. On January 25th, 2025, President Trump issued EO 14176, releasing the JFK files. That was over a year ago. This incorporated the release of the RFK and MLK files. Our guest today is author John Avery Emison from Tennessee, who has written 2 books on the King assassination and the alleged cover-up. He has contacted the National Archives about releasing the information on the assassination that is actually property of the state of Tennessee, but in the possession of the National Archives. This information should have been made available under the Trump EO. They refused and claim it will not be available until 2029. It seems strange after all these years we can't get full disclosure from our government on these 3 assassinations that happened 50 and 60 plus years ago. Now finally to our guest, John Avery Emison, author of the books The Martin Luther King Congressional Cover-Up, that's out of print now, and his current book, The Deep State Assassination of Martin Luther King in 2023. Hey, thank you for being with us. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and I appreciate the opportunity to be on your program, Dave.
Well, we're glad to have you, and we're going to get started right away. So before we get to the EO, tell us a little bit about your background and what initially drew you to this project.
Well, what initially piqued my interest in this in the topic of the King assassination, of course, I grew up in Alamo, Tennessee. We're about 75 miles away from where all this happened in Memphis. I was a high school kid at the time, high school senior, getting ready to graduate. And my mother's uncle, Harry Avery, my great uncle, was commissioner of correction. And so before you know it, James Earl Ray is actually in the custody of my great uncle.
Wow.
He had been an arson investigator for 30 years. And that was back before there were a lot of forensics. You just had to figure it out. And of course, it's not an easy crime to figure out. So he was a naturally curious, really naturally skeptical man. He was a member of the bar. He was a lawyer. He didn't practice law long. He had served a term or 2 in the Tennessee General Assembly and then served in the let's see, what was that? About 1953, 54 Tennessee Constitutional Convention. But he began his own investigation that lasted about 3 months. After the first month, Governor Buford Ellington got wind of it, told him to stop his investigation. He didn't. And a couple of months later, Buford Ellington fired Harry Avery.
Why did he want him to stop?
Well, that's something you just really have to figure out. Of course, Harry Avery, my Uncle Harry, told me some things that are not in print anywhere except in my books. We had conversations way back when I was a young man and almost a kid. He had sat right outside the governor's office in the state capitol. I'm sure you've been there. Probably a lot of your listeners have been there. It's a big open reception area. And then those big doors, you go right into the governor's office. He sat waiting for his appointment with Governor Ellington and overheard a conversation, which I relate in my book, The Deep State Assassination of Martin Luther King, that he could only hear, of course, one end of the conversation, just the Nashville end of the conversation. And he didn't know exactly who they had on the other end of the line, but it was obvious to him, as he related to me, that the governor was speaking to a high official in the Department of Justice, perhaps even Attorney General Katzenbach, might have been the Attorney General. And he was giving reassurances. Don't worry, Ray's going to plead guilty. There's not going to be a trial. There'll be no evidence put on. And of course, that came to pass. So that was my initial my initial interest in it.
I imagine that would spark some interest. If you heard that from your uncle, you would definitely want to know what's going on.
Right. And later on, I had the opportunity and availed myself of that opportunity to interview James Earl Ray 4 times.
Oh, wow.
I interviewed him 3 times in person, once at Brushy Mountain. It was a contact visit. This was in the early 90s. Nobody had ever heard of 9/11. There weren't crazy security this and security that and all that kind of stuff. So they ushered me in a room with a fairly long table and said, "Please wait here." And a couple of minutes later, the jailer appeared with James Earl Ray, escorting James Earl Ray. No shackles, no handcuffs. We sat down, we shook hands. James Earl Ray gave me a pair of cassette tapes that he said, "I've had these in my jail cell for 13 years. And there's an interview of your uncle on here." So anyway.
You weren't expecting that for sure.
I still have those tapes. And I've got a picture of that in the book. And so in the tapes, Harry Avery recounts some of the really important correspondence that came into James Earl Ray. Of course, you send something to a prisoner. There's nothing private about it. Perhaps maybe with an attorney, but they're going to open it, make sure you hadn't sent them a file,
right,
whatever. And so he gave me these tapes of the interview identified 4 pieces of correspondence that he had had in a file. Okay. He had amazingly, when the governor fired him, he let him take all of his personal files with him.
Wow. Surprise.
That was one of them he took. He went immediately and retained legal counsel because he figured he was going to get sued by somebody,
right.
Maybe the state.
One more question on his firing. I mean, okay, so we can kind of imagine, I guess, why he got fired. What was
Sure.
the cover reason for firing him? What was the excuse given for firing him?
The excuse was that he was going to write a book. He lived for another 30-something years. He never wrote a book. Well, I mean, it's like, it's a crime
To write
for
a
a
book?
former state official to write a book. You know, prison will have a lot of former officials in it.
Yeah.
And so, but they sicked the TBI on Harry Avery before they fired him.
Right.
And I had the opportunity back 10 or 11 years ago to interview Bo Roberts. I think Bo Roberts is still alive. I'm not sure, in Nashville. He was one of Ellington's top 3 aides. And the gentleman from Lexington, Tennessee, who was Dick Barry, he had been Speaker of the Tennessee House and was legal counsel to the governor. And Hudley Crockett, who subsequently ran for U.S. Senator and I think maybe governor also. Hudley Crockett was the governor's spokesman, and they all had an early morning meeting with the governor. Every day, they said, almost every day that the governor was in Nashville, they would have this early morning meeting. So Harry Avery had this evidence file. He took it with him. He copied it, left a copy with his attorney. And I recount all this in the book. He kept a copy and took it with him and retired to first Center Hill Lake and then Holston Lake near Dandridge. This file had copies of the actual letters that we're talking about here, Dave.
Right.
Now, from news reports in both the Banner and the Tennessean, and in discussing it with Hudley Crockett and Dick Barry and Bo Roberts, the TBI reviewed this evidence file before they sent Harry Avery on his way. Okay. Then the TBI wrote a report to the governor. We know this because they were, again, reports in the newspaper, in the Banner and the Tennessean. And Ellington cited this TBI report to him as part of the reason that he fired Harry Avery.
Proof that he was going to write a book, which is highly illegal, apparently.
Yeah. So the TBI actually reviewed these letters. Both files went missing after. So this was in May of 1969. Harry Avery retired after the governor fired him. Ellington left office January the 1st or whatever, 1973, died a couple of years later. The House Select Committee on Assassinations was not organized until Ellington had been dead a couple of years.
Okay.
So, but this report is mentioned in a footnote in the House Select Committee on Assassinations final report.
So they definitely have it.
Yes, well, they had it. We'll see perhaps. But so when when I was writing the first of my two books, I went through the whole request process and trying to find where MLK document 200472 was. Who has it?
Right.
I want to see it. Do you have a PDF? And I finally got to the legislative liaison group within the National Archives, and they said, "Oh, that nomenclature of documents that you cite there, that is still House property, and it's under seal for 50 years, so it won't be released until 2029."
Okay, I think we got a copy of that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. That's part of the correspondence, part of the email correspondence. Now, in a subsequent, this Benerick guy, Adam Benerick, with the National Archives said, "I'm sorry, you still can't have it. It's still under seal. It's not going to be released until till at least 2029. So I don't know what the nuance is there, but
and this is after the Trump EO, and this fell under the Trump EO.
Oh, this is after the Trump EO. Absolutely, it was. Absolutely, it was. And if we go back to the JFK Records Act, which I'm sure, there we go. And you look at that. People probably can't see.
Right.
See,
what year was that act? What year was that?
That was in the early it was 92.
Okay.
This was in 92. This was published in October 26, 1992. So this came after the big movie.
JFK by Oliver Stone, right?
Right. The Oliver Stone movie. Yeah. And the congressional action was taken as a result of that. So if you move down to item 4, you find that legislation is necessary because congressional records related to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy would not otherwise be subject to public release until at least the year 2029. So we're talking about these same,
right.
We're talking about these same records that and the National Archives has said that. So now the executive order orders all of these files to be released. And
so all the JFK files, all the RFK files, and all the MLK files, they all fall under the EO.
Well, here's the deal about that. The House Select Committee, all these that stem from the House Select Committee on Assassinations.
Okay.
They had 2 investigations. They had 2 complete separate staffs that reported to Blakey, Robert Blakey. I started to say G. Gordon Liddy, but wrong G.
Yeah.
G. Robert Blakey.
Right.
One of them reopened the JFK assassination. The other one conducted an MLK assassination, since there never really was an official one with a coerced guilty plea. Separate story, outside the storyline. Maybe bring me back on another podcast, because that in itself is extremely interesting.
Say that again, so I make sure and the audience understands what you just said.
Yeah, James Earl Ray's guilty plea was coerced. By the time they got him into court to plead guilty, he was represented. He had fired the Hayneses, Arthur Haynes Jr. and Sr. from Birmingham, and Arthur Haynes Sr. is long since passed away. But I've interviewed and stay in contact with Judge Arthur Haynes Jr. Those records are both the JFK records that were generated or gathered
Right.
by the House Select Committee are just like the MLK records gathered by the House Select Committee. The problem here is there's probably a lot of stuff that the House Select Committee sealed anyway on the JFK assassination that we otherwise have access to.
Right.
Almost nothing on the MLK. Almost nothing on the MLK. Now you find in the JFK collection, records collection, which this act pertained to, you will find, for whatever reason, whether it's incompetence, who knows, you find certain MLK documents. I found a number of MLK documents that just got dumped into this same collection, and so they indexed this collection and finally got it out. But now, so this report on these letters that came into original letters that came into James Earl Ray the first 3 months he was incarcerated in the main prison in Nashville, were reviewed by TBI, and we don't know for certain what, if anything, that report says, since we can't get it,
Right.
about those letters.
Right.
All we know is Bud Hopton, who was the head of the TBI, was probably the last man on earth, maybe second last, because there's a caveat to this story, who actually saw the correspondence that came into James Earl Ray, and he wrote a report about Harry Avery, and one presumes the evidence file. We know the evidence file was also reviewed because that was part of the news stories in the Banner and the Tennessean.
So what did you find out from James Earl Ray when you talked to James Earl Ray?
Not much. I didn't find out much. I found out more about him as a man than I did any of the facts of the case. James Earl Ray was a 9th grade dropout. He only finished 8 years of formal schooling. He was, I think it's fair to say, he was uneducated when I was meeting with him in 91, 92. He was well read. Of course, he had a
lot of time to read.
He had 20, something years
Right,
to sit in the cell and read all day.
Yeah.
And of course, he had written 1 or 2 books that had been published about his own experience and his claims and so forth. So he was. It's kind of strange to deal with someone who is unsophisticated and unlearned, but well informed.
Right. Right.
There is a difference.
Did he say why or how he was coerced?
No, I didn't know anything about that part of it when I had access to James Earl Ray.
Oh, wow.
And the thing about it, Dave, is this: nobody has ever critically examined the conduct of Percy Foreman, who was a Houston lawyer who was brought in when they shuffled out the Hayneses, who really put the pressure on him to get him to plead guilty. That's all in the book too, and that's a tremendous story. And they didn't torture him, but he was under tremendously stressful circumstances in the Shelby County Jail. I'll give you one example, and then let's get back to this document.
Okay.
Which is really what we're talking about. They welded steel plate across the windows of his cell. and knocked out the adjacent cell wall. They had a guard sit 24 hours with eyes in the cell with eyes on James Earl Ray. If he woke up in the middle of the night, and he didn't know whether it's day or night, and they'd say, "What time is it?" And the jailer would say, "Well, it's 2:30. Well, is that morning or afternoon? I mean, he was not allowed to exercise out of his cell. He didn't know whether it was day or night. I mean, this was
How long did this last?
several months.
Months?
Months, yes.
Before they transferred him to federal authority?
Well, before they cracked him long enough to plead guilty and get him in the state trooper cars going about 100 miles an hour to Nashville, because they wanted him out of Shelby County real bad. They wanted him out of the Shelby County jail.
So when did the lawyers, the Hayes or Haynes, when did they become involved with him? After this period?
No, they were the very first lawyers that James Earl Ray had in this country. He had a barrister. He was represented by, I guess, Gratis over in England as part of the extradition process, and he hired the Hayneses, and they represented him from June. About mid-June, call it mid-June, when late June, when he was extradited from England to Memphis, June of '68, and he did not plead guilty until early March '69.
Wow.
And he was under this physical duress. But the Hayneses were trying to, the Hayneses thought they were going to get an acquittal, because the government story was so fragile and so complex. I remember Judge Haynes telling me that we knew that if we could just pull one little piece out of this government story, the whole thing's going to collapse.
Wow.
So the psychological part of it didn't start until, say, around the 1st of December. So December, January, February, that the last 90 days of his 7 or 8 months down there, they added the psychological aspect to it too. Now, I want to cite one of these letters.
Okay.
And as I said, we don't know whether the TBI report has any meaningful information about these 4 letters, and I've got these in my book. But one of them that my uncle cited, and he's working from memory on this, and admits that he's working on memory for this, was a letter from McGill University in Canada. Okay. And my uncle said there was also a letter that came on the letterhead of McGill University from Canada that to me was significant. I felt the author of that letter might have been instrumental in helping to plot the course of getting the passports that were used by Ray of the alias names who were Canadians. Now, he didn't know that then. Nobody knew it for a number of years. But McGill University was ground zero for CIA LSD mind control experiments. Wow. They were wanting to find a substance or a process that would trigger someone to do anything that they're programmed to do, even if it's against their moral conscience, and then never know that they did it. A Manchurian candidate.
Right.
What is what they were wanting. Now, So maybe this letter from McGill University is harmless. I don't know. Why would somebody write to James Earl Ray from McGill University? I think we can pretty well rule out that he had asked for an application.
Now they didn't say that he had been brought there. They just, what exactly did they reference again? The fact that the CIA did operations there or did study there?
Oh, no, none of that. Nobody even knew that for years until after all this.
Okay.
So we've that TBI report, which is missing from the state archives. One presumes, since the feds got it, they probably didn't. The FBI probably didn't take a copy. They just took the original and away they went. And now it's under seal, and the federal government, the Congress claims it's their property, and you can't have it and you can't see it until 2029 or later.
Right. Now, who in Tennessee would have had control of that initially? The TBI, right?
Secretary of State.
Okay, so what's
that's under the
Secretary of State? So what's a normal process if the federal government wants a document from a state in the situation? What should be the process? I mean, I think we know what the process is, but what is the official process? You have any idea?
Not quite certain. I'm sure there's an established procedure to do that. I imagine what happened in the mid 1970s is two FBI agents, well dressed, and got a gun on their hip, walked into the Tennessee archives and flashed the badge and said, "Do you have this?" We'll go look. Yes, sir. Here we have it. Well, we need to take this to Washington. So,
right?
No demeaning comments to state employees, but what's a state employee going to tell two FBI agents said we need to take this to Washington?
I got you. Now
so it belongs to the people of the state of Tennessee.
Right. And there's been a resolution done to have it returned. You said back in 2014.
Actually, two of them. There was another one after that. The Senate tried again when Boehner was Speaker. The first one was Pelosi. We knew that was going to be that was going nowhere.
Right.
A little disappointed that it didn't go anywhere under Boehner either. But establishment types are establishment types
everywhere.
Yep. It doesn't make any difference what level of government you're working on.
Right. Now, and this is, so you feel like this is a key document to the whole case then?
I don't know that it's a key document. We know that the investigator who wrote that document was the last person, at least legitimately, to see those letters. And there are other letters that I got in my book, summarized by my Uncle Harry, that he was working simply from memory. Of course, he had those actual letters in his file. He contacted the House Select Committee on Assassinations.
Right.
And they sent investigators down to the Lake Fair at Dandridge. And he said, I was just tremendously embarrassed. I went over to my desk and pulled the drawer open and reached in and was going to hand him a file just like, wasn't there. And so he said, told him, how did y'all come in? Well, he came in from Nashville, flew in Nashville. Oh, that's no problem. My attorney's got a copy of this file, and I will get on the phone and tell him to make you a copy and release a copy to you. He got there, no file. it was gone too. Only one piece of paper in the file, and that was the retainer letter.
Wow.
So,
And the attorney has no idea, or apparently never said what happened to it?
No, he was long since retired and passed away before I dug as deep as I should have, as early as I should have.
Right. So the FBI originally ended up, you said, took the stuff from the state of Tennessee, took the documents
Right.
from the state of Tennessee.
I say FBI, they were federal agents.
Of some sort.
Might have been House Select Committee investigators. I don't know. But
Okay. But it's now in the National Archives.
that's what they say.
That's what they say.
I hope it is still actually in the National Archive. They say we can't see it because it's there.
Okay.
Let's hope it's still there.
All right. But it's been over a year now since the EO's been issued. And
Yes.
they're still sticking to the 2029 and or I guess act of Congress in between then.
That's correct. Now, interestingly, when Representative Luna, I can't call her first name, from Florida,
I know you're talking about.
had a committee or subcommittee hearing a number of months ago, sometime last year, on the JFK documents that may not have been released.
All right.
I had some of the other assassination authors contact me and ask me if I would be willing, if she wants to do this same thing for the MLK documents, would I be willing to go to Washington? So people know this. I have spoken to Congressman Tim Burchett, who I've known for 30-something years, about this, and nobody seems to make any headway with the leadership.
So do you see a lot of similarities between the RFK, JFK, and MLK cases as far as documents go?
Oh, yeah. There are documents missing all over the place. Documents missing from the Warren Commission on the JFK investigation. As a matter of fact, I'm working on a book that has that in it because, Dave, I started seeing in the aftermath investigations sort of some of the same characters, Washington characters, kind of off in the shadows of the MLK and off in the shadows in the JFK, not the perpetrators,
Right.
but the cover up people. Let's
Yeah.
put it that way.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so I thought, this is amazing. This is just amazing.
And I mean, you know, with things that have gone on lately, now I think we're seeing, you know, hey, okay, this is old hat. This is old hat with DC.
Oh yeah. And one of the amazing things that I found out, and I don't want to give away too much before I get my book out, but
Right.
There was a retired law professor from University of Georgia that was the curator of the Richard Russell papers, and Richard Russell was on the Warren Commission. And it may be of some interest to your listeners to note that there were 3 Southerners. There were 7 members of the Warren Commission, 3 Southerners: Senator Richard Russell from Georgia, Senator John Sherman Cooper from Kentucky, and Congressman Hale Boggs from Louisiana. And there are indications either in their papers or their pronouncements at the time. None of them really believed that if Oswald did it, he did it alone.
Right. Right.
Now, then you have Jerry Ford and the guy who's president of the McClone, who was forgotten whether he was the banker or yeah, and of course Allen Dulles,
Right.
who Kennedy had fired as director of CIA.
Yeah.
In 1961, as the fallout from the Bay of Pigs fiasco, and another one I can't remember who it was, but Wilkes wrote a number of papers, and I had thankfully some correspondence. He passed away in the last 3 or 4 years, but he says he knows that Senator Richard Russell knew that they had withheld a letter of dissent that he insisted be included in the Warren Commission report in exchange for his willingness to sign the report. So he signed the report, left him the letter, and Wilkes goes into some detail of they had executive sessions, and wouldn't you know it, the minutes to this executive session.
Hate it when that happens.
Yeah.
So just curious. I mean, first off, the book from 2023, you can still get that on Amazon, right? And that goes into much more detail. Obviously, we can't cover it all here.
Yeah.
And we'll put those books back up again here in a second. So why do you, number one, do you think James Earl Ray did it? And
Oh, no.
okay.
Man was totally incapable of a sophisticated crime. And, the House Select Committee finally said, well, Ray did it, but he probably had help from his brothers. Well, I interviewed one of his brothers, Jerry Ray.
Right.
I talked to Jerry several times. Jerry was an interesting guy and a brassy guy, but he and his brother John weren't any more sophisticated than James Earl Ray was, and they were loyal to him, and they were all criminals. They've all served time for felonies.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean they're 100% bad people.
Right.
He was an interesting guy, but the House Select Committee said, well, he had help for his brothers. That is just ooey.
Is that like Larry, Darrell, and your other brother, Darrell?
Yeah. Just about.
So why do you, and this is last question on this, why do you think whoever did it took MLK out?
Oh, well, here's what I think. When you go back and you look at the documents that have been released, and you look at the CIA reports of what they reported up the chain and all of the public officials, I don't know what they told the president, but it goes all the way up to Hubert Humphrey when he's vice president, that they were convinced of about three things. They were convinced that international communism was funding Martin Luther King. They never found a dime of that money. They never found any conduits or channels or go-betweens. They were also fearful that King was going to pronounce the war in Vietnam at that time as immoral, and that he was going to tell young black teenagers, don't register for the draft and don't honor induction notices. We know they talked about that. We know they were fearful of that. And of course, And the third thing is they were also fearful that he was going to tell black soldiers and Marines in Vietnam, lay down your weapons and don't go out on patrol anymore. So they were fearful that the draft was going to be completely disrupted.
Right.
And
they were already having a lot of problems by that time.
They were fearful of a mutiny,
Yep.
you know, in a war theater. So, you know, there are things that can be done to solve that problem. And I think that's what happened.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if we'll ever know. Well, hey,
Oh, no, we won't for sure.
yeah. Well, hey, I appreciate you coming on. Any closing thoughts?
No, Dave, I appreciate the opportunity to speak to your listeners, and thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to put your books up again, and I'd like to check those out. Lincoln Uber Alles. That's interesting title there.
Well, it is a libertarian viewpoint of the political crisis that led up to the Civil War.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
There's your Facebook page. You get around a little bit.
Well,
Okay. Got another, I think we got another one in here, another slide for a site. Is that it? Okay. All right. Well, hey, once again, and I hope the book does well, and definitely have you back. So do you now
Okay.
you're Martin, your last book on MLK came out in 23, but you're working on another book now, correct?
I am. That's correct.
Okay. When do you think that one might be out?
Oh, I don't know. I would like to say this year, but I'm not real confident of that.
Right.
The working title of that book, I will tease everybody with this, is The Public Execution of John F. Kennedy.
That ought to get a little bit of attention.
Yeah.
Well, hey, once again, thanks for coming on, and good luck with the documents and good luck with the book.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it, Dave.
You have a great night.
You too. Thank you.
I want to thank the audience for taking the time to watch our program tonight. Please be sure to hit the like and subscribe buttons as well as the notification bell so you never miss an episode. It really helps out, and we appreciate your support. We're getting close to the 1,000 subscriber mark, and we're excited about reaching that milestone, hopefully by the end of the month. We're working on having some sort of special prize or gift for the 1,000th subscriber. We'll let you know more about that as we get closer. Check out our audio podcast on iHeartRadio, Spotify, and other platforms as well. Sign up for our weekly newsletter at our website, teeninformer.com. Find and follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Got a few announcements here. Hey, guys, our General Assembly is back in session, and there's a lot of important legislation being presented, good or bad. I can't really cover all the legislation as it works its way through the various committees. Obviously, I will have some legislators on to discuss specific legislation, but it's important to educate yourself and get involved, and when needed, make calls to the various committees on a wide array of different legislation. So I will tell you where to go to keep up with pending legislation. Nullification and other sovereignty-related bills can be found by subscribing to the Substack at tncs.weebly.com. Gun legislation, go to tennesseefirearms.com. Homeschool issues, freeyourchildren.com. That's Tiffany Boyd. General issues, Tennessee Stands, and also I don't have it listed, but Eagle Forum. Tennessee Eagle Forum is another great site. Our second show tonight at 8:30 p.m., Joshua Dogrel, an Alabama police officer, joins us to tell his story of being targeted and doxxed by the Southern Poverty Law Center for speaking at a Southern Heritage event. And this Wednesday, 7 p.m., we'll have a special show with Gary Lowe of Knoxville, who has filed a complaint about Marsha Blackburn's possible violation of state and federal campaign laws. Next Monday, February 16th, at a special time, 2 p.m., we will have Walter Kennedy. He is the Commander-in-Chief of the Sons of Confederate Veterans. He will be here to tell the whole ugly truth about our 16th President, Abraham Lincoln. A nice touch for President's Day. Maha Day on the Hill, February 17th at 9 a.m., Cordell Hall Building, 425 John Lewis Way in Nashville, Tennessee. Please take the time to check out the other shows brought to you by West Tennessee TV by going to westtennesseetv.com or myparistv.com. There you can find links to the Mike Weatherford Show and Sportscast with Jeremy Bucklow. Tomorrow night, Mike welcomes Lauren Pinkston, an independent who is also running for governor of Tennessee. She's challenging the two-party system. Find out what she's all about on the Mike Weatherford Show. And then Sunday, February 15th, 7:30 p.m. on Sportscast, Jeremy welcomes the head coaches of the Patriot baseball and softball teams and their plans to get ready for 2026 this spring. This is a great show. If you live in the northwest part of Tennessee, that's Sportcast with Jeremy Bucklow. That's it for now, so good night from Paris. Tennessee, that is.